Hey guys, welcome to another RAM episode, and today we're going to be showing vehicle-specific enclosures from Atrend. Here we have a fiberglass sealed version and a vented MDF version. So let's start with the sealed enclosure. This is also known as Atrend's Phantom Fit fiberglass enclosure. And we look inside. It's relatively thick fiberglass they laid on. It's all put in a mold, obviously. Terminal cups easy on the side over here to access. Much more air volume inside compared to their wooden version. Just a nice clean look. So what kind of subs can we put into this enclosure? This is where you want to purchase your Atrend enclosure from your authorized dealer, because not all subs fit. I have two examples, one from Alpine and the other from JL Audio. Here's a Type R. Now, here you can see on the basket, it's pretty aggressive. There's a lot of material on here. So we don't, on some subwoofers they come in more, like on the JL I'll show you. See how there's way less material and it tapers in really easily? This sub is really easy to install in pretty much any enclosure. So we're gonna try fitting the Type R in. Now, it almost fits, but it feels like the magnet bottoms out, and I don't know if you can see on camera, but there is a bit of a gap here. You can compensate by building a ring, so you put it on you can build this on the router and everything, and have another spacer ring come up, and it will fit. But there is a bottom portion here for the sub to vent, and I would just say that this type of sub is just too large for this enclosure. Now, looking at the W3. Does not bottom out, fits in nice and snug. A woofer like this, which requires not nearly as much power as a Type R and not nearly as much volume, is a better way to go for this box. Now, why would you want to go with sealed? There's a few reasons. For one, looking at this enclosure right away, we can see it's only half the space. So for you Dodge Ram owners that like to use the left side for keeping miscellaneous items like gloves, tie-down straps, what say you, this is the better way to go because it only takes up half the space. Also, when it comes to prefab, sealed is a better way to hit lots of different frequencies, and you hit a more consistent quality when it comes to this, as opposed to a vented enclosure where you have to really pick the right sub since the enclosure is already built. So that would be the other side things. Price-wise, these two are going to be pretty similar because this one's fiberglass, the other one's MDF, but the other one's vented. So you're not going to really save a lot of money going with this particular version, but we're going to make up for it because I prefer this one over the wood one because lots more room inside, more volume. You're going to get a lot better sound quality from it. Okay, now let's look at their vented series enclosure. This thing is huge. It's the same size as their twin version, but it's vented, which I think is a much better design because I always found the sealed version of MDF, it didn't hit that low because we were really constricted on air volume. So now we have a lot more volume because we go all the way across. There's a vent over back here. And what I also like was they've doubled up the wood. So most of it's 1/2 inch MDF. Over here looks like they got 3/4 inch, and then they have another 1/2 inch piece on top. This is going to really reduce your resonance, upping your sound quality out of this enclosure. As far as the installation goes, you will have to move the terminal cup back here because it's very hard to access it from over here. So solder on your wires, bring it over, and then install your sub. So what fits in this enclosure? Well, let's try the Type R again. I would say this this type of woofer is just way too big for this type of enclosure, but we're just trying it because it's a 10-inch woofer. That's as far as it goes with any modification. So if you're buying online, don't buy the Type R. Let's try the JLW3. You see again, looking at the basket, tapers off, it's very compact. Fits much better application. Like I said, doesn't require a lot of power to run, doesn't need a lot of volume, and it's just a very good sounding woofer. So I'm going to recommend the W3 in this application. For the two enclosures I showed you, they're both single type of enclosures. This part you have to keep in mind. Because you only have one woofer, you have choices to make when it comes to what kind of style woofer you put in. Now when I say style, I mean single voice coil versus dual voice coil. Now I have another video for this you guys take a look at, but what I need you guys to keep in mind is when you're selecting your woofer, you have to make sure you're getting the power rating right, but also getting the load right, because this particular woofer is only a 4 ohm load. This one can be either 4 or 1 because it's dual 2. This application, I'd recommend a dual 4 ohm woofer. This will allow us to step down to a 2 ohm load, because most monoblocks nowadays will either give you 2 power ratings, either you want maximum power at 2 ohms, or at 4 ohms you get half the power. So it really depends. Like if you have like a 1,000-watt monoblock, well, maybe this single 4 ohm is going to do okay because you only need half the power to run this W3. So this is where you want to talk to your installer or your sales guy that you trust and figure out what to match as far as volume goes, power, and load that you need to put on that amplifier. Now in our 2015 Ram, you can see we have the factory subwoofer solution from Alpine, and it's okay, but our customer's looking for a little bit better sound quality, a lot more output, so we got to go aftermarket. Now the factory piece is the most practical because we can maintain these cargo trays. However, because we're doing an upgrade, you can actually maintain these if you want to go custom, but because we're doing prefab, we're gonna have to lose these. We've got the Phantom fit in now. Now you see we had to remove the trays because the enclosure comes way back under here, but it only takes up the 70 split. So we can maintain our cargo tray over here. You can see I got a bunch of junk over here, but that's cool because we use that on a regular basis. But we got way better sound quality than the factory one, and we maintain all our practicality for the most part, and everything fits nicely. We now have our vented version in. As you can see, it is the least practical version because we've lost all cargo carrying capabilities in the back, but we have a lot more output because we have that vented enclosure, and we actually don't need as much power to run the woofer. I would still recommend to actually match the woofer to the amp. So if this is 300 watts RMS, 300 watts RMS amplifier, or a little bit higher, so you have some headroom as well. And as far as fitment goes, fits pretty good. Now this is thicker than the other Atrends, so you'll have to pretty much settle in over time, but it does fit reasonably well. So hopefully you guys learned some new things about vehicle-specific enclosures, especially ones from Atrend. Check out atrendusa.com. To see what else we're up to, check out www.the12volters.ca.